thinking behind this title, and by the way, I've interpreted information ethics sort of as computer and information ethics a bit more broadly. Some people in information ethics think that it covers only sort of information itself, and sometimes limiting with media ethics. My view overall, though, and this gets back to some of the discussions we've had in the last few days, I don't think that, what are we talking about? Bioethics. I don't think that bioethics is any more basic than information ethics or computer ethics or whatever. I think what happens in all of these applied ethical fields, and I think that's true of all disciplines anyway, is that they force you, or at least they encourage you to focus on certain issues, right, at the expense of others. But that doesn't mean that all of these other areas aren't important. There are a lot of things in information ethics that are going to overlap with bioethics, that are going to overlap with media ethics, that are going to overlap with pretty well any other field applied ethics that you want to talk about. Sorry, yeah, what is the point? I'll say more about that later, but my thinking here is that I've been trying to work on a book on the ethics of technology for quite a long time now, pretty well ever since I've retired, and I've got a lot of it written, but what I'm finding really hard is to write something at the beginning that shows what the point of it all is. Because when we look at all this ethical work that we do realistically, I have the horrible feeling that not many people take much notice. We do this work that technology develops anyway, regardless of what we do about it. I hope I'm wrong, but that's sort of the thinking that's inspired this. So what are we trying to do in applied ethics, or in ethics of technology anyway? Are we trying to ban some developments? Are we trying to educate policymakers? Are we trying to educate the public and computer users? Are we trying to educate scientists, developers, information professionals, or others? There might be other things we're trying to do. To some extent we might be trying to do all of these things. But it does seem to me that this is one of the things in applied ethics we don't think about quite enough. We assume that everybody thinks what we're doing is terribly important and is going to take notice of us. I wish that were true. Anyway, there was a thing in the paper at home not all that long ago about making smartphones smarter. Right, the phones of the future, this is the quote, the phones of the future will also be able to work out when we're sick, act as sophisticated personal assistants communicating on our behalf, experts say. Screening calls, responding to emails, making appointments on our behalf. Future smartphones could interface with high-tech glasses to overlay what we see with virtual data and images, protecting a consensual hallucination into the real world. Okay, so this is what they're predicting with smartphones of the future, and it looks all exciting. But then I was thinking, well, how smart do we want our phones to be? I mean, most of the features on my phone I never use. Like most of the features on the Word package on the computer I never use. Most things on the computer I never use, and certainly that's true with the phone. But there's this push in society to always bring out everything new, right? And I'll talk about motives for that perhaps a bit later. But anyway, I think what we should be thinking about when people are always telling us that all this wonderful new technology is coming out, I mean, why? I mean, Is it going to make our lives better? That's really the thing that interests me. So this is an outline of what I want to talk about, and I'll go through it fairly quickly because I'm the only thing between you and him now. So I'm going to stop that to keep that too distant, and I think all of us except Darryl are getting tired anyway. So what do we do in information ethics? What is a technological reality? Technological innovation in humans. Two things there, apparent situation, actual situation, and then finally getting back to what is the point of it all. So what do we do in the ethics of, well, I've switched here, our ethics of technology more generally than just information. Actually, I wasn't very careful there, now I've gone back to information. But we're interested in the use of the technologies. How should information technologies be used? Regulations on use. And we like to think that we have some input to governments when laws are made with respect to the use of various technologies. Development, what technologies should be developed, how they should be designed. And I think the overarching thing here should be, if it's not, is the question of making life better. And technology is there, and we've developed technologies because we want to live good lives. We don't always think the same sort of life is a good life, but we have technologies in order to make life better for ourselves. And I think we should always keep that in mind. That should always be kept in mind when we are looking at new technologies. And one of the things about technology and why we need it is that, I mean, when you look at us compared with non-human mammals or non-human life, non-human animals and birds, we realise that we're not really very good at much. If we didn't have technology, we couldn't survive. Right? I can't fly. I can't dig burrows very well. I can't climb trees very well. I can't run very fast. Compared with, I can't see very well. I can't hear very well. Compared with various of our cousins in the non-human world. So if we didn't have technologies to help us, we wouldn't be sitting here. We would have all died a long time ago. When we look at early indigenous societies, they all had technologies that helped them get food, and in most cases shelter too, depending on where they lived, I guess. Now, in the ethics of information technology, many of the issues aren't new. They arise in other areas, for example, bioethics, business ethics, media ethics, criminal justice ethics, and so on. But many arise in new ways and become more urgent. And when, I guess 20 years ago or more, when computing was a bit newer, some of these issues were being discussed a lot because questions were arising in new ways. And we've had intellectual property and patents around for a long time, but what's a computer program? It doesn't really fit in with intellectual property or that world, because that usually is something that's written in a book or a painting or something. It doesn't really fit in with a patent very well, because a patent's usually some sort of machine. A computer program is sort of halfway between literature and a machine, so we had to rethink to some extent how we were going to talk about those. Now copying is so easy, and the copy is as good as the original in most cases, so we've had to rethink things on copying. You might be able to see that very well. Anyway, I'll just put these up and mention them. Some of the topics, I won't talk about all of these in detail. Some of them are internet censorship, intellectual property, privacy, I'll say more about that, monitoring and surveillance, cybercrime, cyber warfare, artificial intelligence and robotics, global ethics and digital divide. Global ethics is particularly important in the digital world because there aren't any of the natural boundaries that we normally have. There have been some interesting cases. There was a case in Australia a few years ago, and this was a legal case, but it was also an ethical case of a neo-Nazi in Australia who put up all this stuff on a website, and the website was based in Australia, but when he went to Germany, he got arrested because it was illegal there, and their argument was that, you know, it's visible in Germany. It wasn't illegal in Australia. I think it is now. Those days it wasn't. So this is another case where issues are raised in a way that they weren't before. Well, I've already said a bit about intellectual property. One of the things that I've just mentioned here when I was teaching students who by and large came from developing countries, they didn't see any problems with people from or in developing countries illegally or using pirated copies of software, because their argument was, well, we can't use it otherwise. Nobody's really losing any money because we couldn't pay for it. So what's the problem? Now, there are counter arguments to that, but that was a fairly common view. I think there is a lot more to say about that, but I won't say here. Should the internet be censored? In some countries it is. It's quite difficult to censor it without getting rid of a lot of the good things as well, of course. A lot more could be said about that. Why is privacy a good thing? This is coming up certainly all the time in Australia now, with medical records going online and so on. Is privacy a good thing? Is privacy a right? Privacy is protection. That seems to me to be the most important. I think the main point is, does it matter what people know about us as long as they don't use it against us? And that's, I think, the central point, because the more people know about us, the more scope there is of using things in ways that could harm us. But I don't think that privacy in itself is important. I think it's the consequences of losing your privacy that are the big problem. Informational privacy. Let's move on. Data protection. In some parts of Europe, there's more talk about data protection than privacy, and I think this is a better way to go. Data should be protected. It shouldn't be used in areas for which it wasn't intended, and so on. The selling of data, well, this is happening a lot. We don't know what information about it is being sold. Perhaps we should just assume that everything that's online is. Data mining. This is it's very closely related to AI, and also to surveillance, which I'll get onto in a minute, because we have these huge data sets now that are very hard for any human to work his or her way through. But using AI techniques, you can learn a whole lot about people going through that data, analyse data from different perspectives. Some arrive at useful information. This is a fairly old example that they discovered that when men bought diapers, or nappies as we call them in Australia, on Thursdays and Saturdays they also tended to buy beer, probably because they didn't like changing nappies. This information in various, well, it can be used to increase revenue and so on. Profiling, this is, can be based on data mining as well. You build up profiles of certain groups of people through their buying habits and so on. Each bit of information might be innocuous, but then if you might find out that all people of a certain age group and live in a certain area have a high incidence of some sort of behaviour, and then so perhaps the police will target those, even though a lot of the individuals won't have those tendencies. Put together, this can all be very powerful, which is why governments and companies too are trying to use this sort of thing for refusing credit, insurance, and so on. Surveillance. There are a whole lot of reasons why people claim it's a good thing. When we get onto an aeroplane, we have to go through security. Most of us think that that's okay, we don't need to wear that, because we prefer that the plane stayed up there till it was supposed to come down. But there are other sorts of arguments, or there's arguments that are used particularly by governments now, and this is certainly happening in Australia, to justify all sorts of surveillance, because they say we have to stop terrorists, which in itself is a good thing, but then we're losing all sorts of freedoms at the same time. And this does seem to me to be a big problem. Some countries now are using what seems to be very insidious sorts of surveillance to pretty well control their populations. And it's getting to the stage that's outlined or spelled out in some of the dystopian novels that were written sort of back in the 30s and 40s. And in my view, this is actually probably the biggest, or one of the biggest problems with new technology. I think that what we're doing is setting up a society in which it's going to be fairly easy for some dictator or even a moderately benevolent government who has some silly tendencies to monitor almost everything we do and keep it on file. One of the things that's a bit of a danger in computing is that computers don't forget. I think we forget how important forgetting is, because we all do silly things, right? We don't want people to remember it forever, and most people don't. But if you do something nasty or silly online, it's there forever. I mean, we think we can get rid of it, we delete things and so on. But if you know enough about the system and so on, you'll know to retrieve nearly anything. And that's why I think the surveillance thing, coupled with AI, artificial intelligence, and coupled with all of the more sophisticated sensing devices and so on that we have now, putting this together with everything being networked, I think is a big worry. Cybercrime, well, we know that crime isn't good anyway. Cyber warfare, we might want to say that cyber warfare is not quite as bad as actual warfare. I tend to think that that's true, but it's still a bit nasty and it could bring a country to its knees. But I won't say much more about that one either. Global ethics. As I mentioned earlier, we can't avoid global ethics. If we're working online, if we're working in the digital world. The notion of giving offence is an interesting one, and that's come up in various cases in the last few years where certain groups have been offended by material that's online in one country. This was a bit the case with the German one, although that was illegal as well. But I can put something up on my, well, I don't have a website, but if I did, or on Facebook, I don't have a Facebook account either, but if I did have these things, I could put up material there that I wouldn't think was offensive, and it wouldn't be offensive to any of my friends and so on. But it may well be offensive if somebody reads it from a completely different background. Now this raises issues about how much we should be worried about giving offence. And obviously you can't rule out giving offence in all circumstances. We'd probably be forced to say nothing. But on the other hand, we shouldn't go out of our way to give offence, I think. So those are a couple of the cases of Danish cartoons, the Charlie Hebdo thing in France a few years ago. The digital divide, I won't say more about that. For now, artificial intelligence and robotics, I think, is one of the really important things at the moment. And there's been a lot of discussion. The interesting thing for me is that when I got into this sort of area, like in the late 1970s and 1980s, artificial intelligence was a really hot topic. And a lot of material was coming out, there was a lot of discussion about it, and so on. It never died as far as interest goes. Partly because it was oversold initially, but also because once somebody said a computer could never do something, and then somebody made it do it, then it wasn't considered AI anymore, it was just computer science. Anyway, there's been a big comeback just in recent years, and that's mainly because of particularly new hardware, much faster machines, enormous memories these days. Some of that's a result of developments in nanotechnology. And so we get back to questions, are there some decisions that shouldn't be left to computers? And this was something that was discussed a long time ago, but it's coming up again now. One of the issues that's coming up regularly is with driverless cars. Now, a driverless car, at some stage, somebody or something is going to have to make a decision, right? Because sometimes you've got the choice of running off the road or hitting somebody, or hitting a cow or whatever, but a decision has to be made. So how are those decisions going to be made? Are we going to do it purely on, if there's only one person, well, I'll make it a bit different. Say you've got, two people in your car, your spouse or your partner and a child, and there are 3 people on the road. And really your choice is between hitting 3 people and probably killing them, or running off the road and killing your family. Now those are decisions none of us want to make, but if we're the driver, there are going to be times where we have to make a split decision on what we're going to do. And you can understand most people, I think I probably would, I'm not saying it's right, but you'd probably try and save your family. But it seems sort of cold to build that into into the system of a car that has to make the decision all on its own. But anyway, these are some of the things that people are talking about, and not only philosophers and ethicists. People developing these things, these autonomous cars, have to and are talking about these things at the moment. What should robots be allowed to do? Should we have robots working in the care industry where you have hospitals full of, okay, you'll have a few doctors and nurses, but then you'll have robots or care bots, as they're called, sometimes looking after the people, in old people's homes and so on. Is there something inhuman about being looked after by a robot? What if you're getting better care than you would from a person simply because there aren't enough people around? And these are questions which people are asking again now. Okay, so what I was just mentioning here, what some of the issues are that we talk about in the ethics of technology. Now I want to just say a couple of things briefly about what is the technological reality. Now in the real world, there's a general enthusiasm for the new. Right? People want new stuff. They want new phones that do more things. Artificial intelligence is one of the, as I said, one of the big things at the moment, and people are trying to make them do smarter and smarter things. Drones. Now hardly anybody really needs a drone, but you see them buzzing around all over the place. And there are only, I think, a few jobs actually might need them for. But just a bit more about AI. It's made a resurgence in the last few years. This character says artificial intelligence promises to progressively improve our lives. Tech moguls declare era of artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence and machine learning will create computers so sophisticated and godlike that humans will need to implant neural laces in their brains to keep up. That's Elon Musk. You can see from this, and Ray Kurzweil is another one of these people who is always pushing new developments, predicts computers will be as smart as humans in 12 years. Now that depends on how you define smart, but I suspect that in certain ways they're smarter than we are now. In my phone's got a calculator on it. It does arithmetic much faster than I can and much more accurately, so in that sense it's smarter than me. In other ways I'd like to think I was a bit smarter than it still. So the reality is that there's this constant push for new technology. Nobody really, or very few people, seem to really be thinking about why. Technological innovation is used. Can we do anything about it? Should we do anything about it? About all this constant push for innovation? Another question, or a better question, should technological change be halted? Now we heard a couple of speakers the other day who were working on gene editing, saying that it's not going to happen, we can't stop it, even if we could. And I want to say a bit more about that shortly. It's often said you can't stop progress, but that could mean a couple of things. It might mean that you just can't, or it means that you shouldn't. And progress is always thought to imply improvement. But the apparent situation then is that technological progress is inevitable, some sort of technological determinism. It's just part of the human spirit, if you like. And we're technological creatures, as I said before. If we didn't have technology, the human race wouldn't have survived. I mean, even if it was just a rock to throw and kill a bird to get food, it's still technology. Technological innovation, the actual situation, despite appearances, technological change in any particular direction isn't inevitable. It's largely a question of societal values. And the sorts of values I'm thinking about are efficiency. Most technologies are supposed to make things more efficient, which usually means you can do things more quickly or with more people, so you can have more profit. These are values in a typical Western society. Good health, there's nothing wrong with good health, but it's certainly a value which drives medical technology. Longevity. Most of us want to live I don't know how long we want to live, but we want to live reasonably long. The thing we don't count on, of course, is we have all these technologies to help us live longer, which means there are more people, so we need new technologies then to try and stop us ruining the environment and give us more food and all of those sorts of things. Consuming is a value. We seem to like going to shops. I mentioned the other day, I think that some of the things I was saying mightn't have made, or mightn't have seemed obvious, but comparing those values that I just put up there that are typical of a Western society, Indigenous Australians, as far as I've been able to work out, were much more interested in things like continuity, constancy, balance, symmetry, regularity and system. They weren't worried about acquiring things all the time and progressing in the way that we think we have to. They were efficient and they had spears and boomerangs and things to more efficiently get their food, but it was in a framework of constancy, and they developed skills rather than better technology. What we're doing with better technology is often losing skills, because you don't have to. I take photos of birds, but if I had to use a camera that wasn't automatic, there's no way that I could, because unless it's an emu or some really big bird that just sits there, you don't have time to focus and so on. You have to do it pretty quickly. With the cameras we have now, of course, you can do that. So I've never developed a skill to be a good photographer. We place so much emphasis on material goods, material wealth, that it's difficult to understand people who don't share this interest in accumulating goods. Rituals, ceremonies and so on connected with tool-making techniques was part of their culture as well. There was a big difference between that way of looking at life and the way, and technology and the way that we look at it. Okay, well, what is the point? How rational are we? We have rational selves, we have emotional selves, we might have other selves as well, but there's certainly, we certainly are at least partly rational, I like to think, and we're obviously also partly emotional. And where does this push for greater tech, wherever new technology and innovation come from? Is it more the emotional, is it more the rational? And our decisions are influenced by lots of different things, and some of the factors I've tried to list here, and I mentioned some of these before, and I'm not sure that these are actually just limited to Western technology development. When I walk around Bangkok or Manila and so on, I don't see many people without mobile phones or various bits of technology like that. Consumerism certainly drives technological development in the West, because the more things you consume, the more people can sell, and leads to economic growth. Advertising, clearly, we are pushed all the time in the direction of buying something new. Glamorous people are always having new things. Nudging, which is not really forcing anybody to do something, but one example is online banking. I don't like online banking because I don't really think it's safe, but I use it simply because it's easy and the banks like you to do it. And you go into a bank now in Australia and there aren't many bank tellers left because everything's online. Pejorative language used about people who question technology. And this sort of gets back to Daniel's point about people who question some of the things that he was questioning. pejorative language. People are called Luddites or worse if they aren't so keen on all these new technological developments. By the way, the Luddites were named after a boy called Ned Ludd, who smashed his father's cotton loom, and that was taken as a symbol of somebody who didn't like new technologies. But from what I understand, he only smashed his father's cotton loom because he got wild with his father. It didn't have anything to do with the technology itself. Anyway, that's by the way. Needs versus wants. We think we need all this new stuff. I mean, there's not a sharp line between needs and wants, but clearly a lot of the stuff that we think we need, we only want. Affordance. The way this notion is used here in IT is that certain sorts of technology make certain kinds of actions more, or make them easier. So we tend to do certain things rather than others, even though we don't have to. People often say that some people say technology is neutral, as somebody did the other day, and that it's the way it's used. Now, in a sense, that's true, but technologies are designed in such a way that certain uses are encouraged and other uses are discouraged. Some things are a lot easier to do with certain sorts of technology. So I think basically we're on a treadmill. Technologies create the need for more technologies, I've said this before. Advances in medical technology create the need for food and environmental technologies, energy and waste and so on. Doesn't mean that medical technology is bad, it just means that we should actually be looking at the bigger picture and not just on improving people's health through medicine or whatever, because we're not going to have healthy people if we have a lot of good medicine and medical help and so on, but we have a terrible environment, right, and not enough food and whatnot. So we need to be much more holistic on the way we look at some of these things, I think. Now, some of you will be familiar with people like Thomas Kuhn and Ludwig Wittgenstein. I'm not going to have a philosophy class here on them, but I'll talk mainly about Thomas Kuhn rather. He talked about us, or scientists in particular, but you can extend it to most things in life. We have a certain paradigm within which we work, and by and large we don't question that. Back in, say, the Middle Ages in Europe, people worked within a very much a religious paradigm, and questioning the Bible, questioning the church was looked on as a bad thing. Now, I'm not saying we've got quite to that stage again, but we are working in the West very much within a technological paradigm, where within the paradigm all these advances are good, but we don't usually get out of the paradigm and question the whole way we're using technology and so on. So we're looking at it often, I think, in a fairly blinkered way, and I think we're looking at it in a way which is almost medieval, where we don't think about the big picture, we just look at the details. We rarely question the technological paradigm itself. Well, what is the point? We have to consider the actual situation that we're in. What are the urgent problems in technology? What regulations are used? What new technologies are most needed? What design issues are most important? And consider the ideal situation. What sort of society or world do we want? We need to take a more holistic approach, and I think we need to question the technological paradigm. Just some discussion questions. I thought of what are seen as the main problems with information technology. Are the right technologies being developed? What kinds of technologies would be of most use? Should any technologies be avoided? Are the benefits of technologies fairly distributed? Are there risks? Are the risks fairly distributed? Are technologies making developing countries more self-sufficient and more reliant on developed countries? What are the main drivers of new information technologies? What factors are most important in the adoption of technologies? Okay, so that's it. Thanks. Now it's not here to suggest questions.
Are there any questions?
You have to come down to the front, or I won't answer.
Actually, not a question. In continuation of our discussion from yesterday, which following that I wrote a few pages yesterday and added like 6 slides to my presentation, for which there was not enough time. And I want to connect the beginning of your lecture, which I agreed with every sentence you made, and I'm looking forward to reading your book, with the ending, because you started saying that bioethics is not more than information ethics, and you finished your talk with saying something about global ethics. So you felt you needed a broader framework. And the concept I wanted to introduce, not mine, was implicated relations. This is a concept by physicians David Bohm and was later worked by a geographer Yuval Portugali from Tel Aviv University, and it is very simple. I'll make the example in the Thai connection. Seeing the world from Bangkok is different than from Copenhagen. I mean, Copenhagen is as far from Bangkok as Bangkok is as far from Copenhagen, but the world is seen in a totally different way. So, information ethics, non-hierarchically, in its domain, is the relevant for discussing all the things you've said so far, and on many of which we will have to think more. I keep thinking about these topics, for example, whenever I pass through borders. And then in the Thai border, they mark it. Stand like this. It fits like this. And you've been scattered. And the same with bioethics in the narrow sense of the word. But then we have to have some kind of a broader perspective. I found that perspective in deep ecology. I found it in the concept of Van and Smear Potter. I realized only in this conference that a German philosopher already coined bioethics before, and he had a different perspective, but I'm thinking about ethics in any kind of domain which is an out view on everything else from its own perspective. Bioethics, genome ethics, communication ethics, etc. And the idea of a broader perspective, and on the terminology, how we're going to frame this broader perspective. We don't have to argue about terminology. It could be global ethics, it could be bioethics in a different meaning than that of the more narrow sense on which most of us focused in this conference. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks. Look, my objection, well, it's not an objection in the sense of being nasty, using using bioethics as the sort of overarching ethics is that, I think that's confusing because then we have to say, well, are you talking about the broad one or the narrow one? I'd like to see these different applied or practical ethics not as rigid areas with tight boundaries, but that they help you focus on certain kinds of issues. And obviously, if you go into any issue in any depth, you're going to branch out into a lot of others. But that's not only true of these ethics. I mean, if you go into, well, any area of philosophy, that happens. If you go into any area of science, that's going to happen. You can't go very deep in anything without getting outside of your narrow little field. But the fields can be useful in helping to focus on problems, at least as a starting point.
If I may agree with you by quoting John Muir, founder of environmentalism, one of the founders, who said that if you pick up one fact from the world, you find it connected to everything else. So I agree with what you said. Thank you.
Good, thank you very much, John. I think it's been an excellent discussion. I know we can ask more questions.